Hello, welcome to the Lord's Day Ministry. Today we're going to be doing part 3 of Destroying Calvinism. Now we're going to go back to once saved, always saved again. Now the first video we learned that nobody can pluck you out of God's hand, except God. God can pluck you out of His hand. Now in this video we're going to learn that nobody can blot you out of the book of life, except God. And that God has written the book of life. Now let's go to Exodus 32:32. This is Moses talking to God here. Yet now, if thou wilt forgive their sin, now he's asking God to forgive the Israelites' sin. And if not, blot me, I pray thee, out of the book of life which thou hast written. So he's saying, if you won't forgive their sins, just blot me out of the book of life. And it says, the book which thou hast written. So he's saying, we learn here that God has written the book of life and that God can blot you out. Let's go to Psalm 69, verse 28. Let them be blotted out of the book of the living. Now this is David talking about his enemies, okay, that are pursuing him. He's asking God to blot them out of the book of the living and not be written with the righteous. Now we know righteousness is having faith in God. Is faith. Righteousness is faith. So he's asking God to blot these people out that don't have faith in God, that are pursuing Him. Alright, let's go to Revelation chapter 3, verse 5. Now this is Jesus talking. He that overcometh, the same shall be clothed in white clothing. And I will not blot out his name out of the book of life, but I will confess his name before my Father and before his angels. Now that's talking about when Jesus confesses his name before the Father and before his angels. He's talking about judgment. Now Jesus also says elsewhere in the Bible that if you deny me before man, I will deny you before my Father and the holy angels. That's talking about judgment. Now let's go to a parable in Romans chapter 11. Let's start at verse 18. Boast not against the branches. Now it's talking about a wild olive tree. The branches of a wild olive tree. Now the wild olive tree, the branches of the wild olive tree are, the natural branches are the Jews, and the branches that are going to be grafted in are the Gentiles. And the root is God. God supplies the life for the tree. Okay? So boast not against the branches. He's talking about the Gentiles. Don't boast against, like the Jews. But if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee. Thou wilt say then, the branches were broken off, that I might be grafted in. Now, the Jews that rebelled against Jesus, killed Jesus, they've been broken off, thrown in, they're going to be thrown in the fire. Now he's saying don't boast that, oh look, they got broken off and I'm grafted in. Don't boast. Well, because of unbelief they were broken off, and thou standest by faith, but not high-minded, but feared. Saying don't be haughty, don't be prideful. For if God spare not the natural branches, take heed lest he also spare not thee. So he's saying he didn't spare the Jews who were the chosen people. Don't think that he won't do the same to you. He'll break you off if you lack faith. If you go back on your faithfulness, your faith of God, your faith in God. Behold therefore the goodness and severity of God on them which fell severity, but toward thee goodness, if thou continue in his goodness, otherwise thou also shalt be cut off. He's saying if you don't continue in your goodness, you're going to be cut off too, just like them. So don't boast, don't get prideful, because the same can happen to you. You can be cut off, you can be blotted out of the book of life. And they also, if they abide not still in unbelief, shall be grafted in, for God is able to graft them in again. So he's saying even those Jews who are cast off, broken off, they can be grafted back in. If they repent of their sins and confess their iniquities to God, they can be grafted back in. For if thou were cut out of the olive tree, which is a wild by nature, and were grafted contrary to the nature into a good olive tree, how much more shall these, which be the natural branches, be grafted into their own olive tree? So he's saying, you know, the Jews were the original olive tree. How much more should they be, you know, forgiven of their sins and be allowed back into the olive tree? So don't think that you can't be cast off. Don't think that you can be blotted out. It says right here plainly that you can be blotted out. Now, I think I'm going to make a video. I think the next one will be about free will. But I think, God willing, we're going to go through all of Calvinism. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed day.